Hello, welcome to Thor Talk, the show all about Marvel's resident god of thunder, where I discuss Thor feats, battles, story arcs, villains, and more. On this episode of Thor Talk, as the War of Realms looms over, Hercules and Jane Foster arm wrestle, and Odin returns. All that and more on Thor Talk.
I am Thor the Thunderer, son of Odin, prince of Asgard. I am an Avenger, and this world is under my protection.
Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
The Mighty Thor number 702 was written by Jason Aaron in December of 2017. The story begins as we see how the War of Realms continues. Roxxon is nuking Vanaheim. The Storm and Mountain Giants have teamed up to battle the Frost Giants. Alfheim is ravaged by war, Niflheim is at war with the Queen of Muspelheim, and Ulick's forces attack the dwarves of Nidavellir. Now, Jane finds herself in a bar on Midgard, arm wrestling Thor's old comrade, Hercules. They go back and forth until Jane starts to use lightning from Mjolnir to cheat in order to win, but Hercules persists and continues to hold his ground. However, Jarnbjorn splits the table in two as Thor has ended the contest. Even though Jane didn't win, Hercules agrees to help her by going to Zeus to ask for help in the war, but makes it clear even if Zeus refuses, they shall have Hercules by their side. Thor and Jane then journey to Asgardia, where they find a wounded Volstagg on life support after his battle with Mangog. Thor says that he believes Mangog is coming for the gods. Jane then prepares to go out and fight in the war again, but Thor stops her, saying that she needs to continue her cancer treatment or she will die. Jane refuses, but Thor continues to talk her down, saying that the world needs Jane Foster. Jane throws the hammer away and turns to her mortal form. But instead of doing as Thor pleaded for her to do, she pounds on the door where Odin is tending to his mortally wounded wife. She calls him a coward and demands that he come out and lead the gods in the War of Realms. Odin's brother, Kull, tries to defuse the situation, but the gods begin speaking of revolt. Odin then bursts out and goes off on Jane for speaking as she did, but then a weak voice says that she's right. Freya, the wife of Odin who is mortally wounded, has awoken, and says that they must indeed fight in the War of Realms. Then, Jane collapses on the ground, and Heimdall watches as a new threat looms. Mangog leaps onto Bifrost, and prepares to fight all of Asgard. It was good to see Hercules in a Thor book again. They used to team up all the time, but have barely done so in recent years. There's also a small scene that I'd like to draw attention to. It wasn't quite large enough to justify putting it in the summary though, so here we go. When Thor tells Jane that Mangog killed Tooth Gnasher, there's a pause as he does it. Then Jane says she's so sorry for what happened to Tooth Gnasher, as Thor gently places his hand on Tooth Grinder, and they both have sorrowful looks. Thor's relationship with his pet goats has always never been fully explored or properly treated. They are to Thor what crypto is to Superman, but too often they are treated like a mode of transportation, and it was good to see how much Thor genuinely cares for them. Now, for those of you wondering, the story will not end until February of next year, and even then I'm not entirely convinced that they're actually going to kill off Jane, despite the fact that it is called The Death of the Mighty Thor. There likely seems to be some loophole or return from death in the works, especially since Aaron has already set up Thor to get a new hammer, likely because he wants Jane to keep holding Mjolnir. Yeah. Well, that's all for this episode of Thor Talk. If you want to keep up with Thor Talk and all Thor-related news, follow Thor Talk on Instagram at Thor Talk. You can also keep up with and support Thor Talk by simply subscribing. Once again, I'd like to formally state that all art and videos owned by its respected companies, and I own none of it. With that said, see you next time on Thor Talk, where...
You'll be holding